From Washington, D.C., I'm Ben Bangoura, and this is a storyline. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency Ebrahim Rasool. He's a South Africa ambassador to the United States. Ambassador, welcome to the show. You are celebrating Freedom Day, which marks the end of the Apartheid some 14 years ago. What's your impression?
No, it seems as if the 18 years since Nelson Mandela became president was only yesterday. And I think that it's still a wonderful thing to celebrate our Freedom Day. Doesn't mean that all our problems are solved, but very clearly there's enormous progress on the road. There's a great dignity that people are feeling. Services are starting to get to people, but the prosperity is not a shared one yet.
Right. How would you describe the state of the union in South Africa today as the country celebrates Freedom Day when the South African majority gain independence from the white minority?
I think that the reconciliation that Nelson Mandela fashioned is still holding. That the nation continues to unite despite the many things that still keep us apart. I think that the most important thing that divides South Africans is that the issue of economics is the central issue. That in South Africa today still, if you are white, you are more likely to be well off. If you are black, you are more likely to be poor.
Why is so?
I think that to get rid of a 300-year heritage of colonialism and apartheid is not an overnight issue. We could go for a grab of the wealth, but we would probably destroy the country and its economy and its infrastructure in the process. And so we have chosen the gradual route of ensuring that black people have access to schools, have access to health, have basic municipal services, and have a social security system that keeps them in a safety net. At the same time, we are all the time trying to persuade our white community and those who are better off to ensure that their generosity is an investment in the patience by the overwhelming majority of black people. In a word, I want to say that we live by the dictum that today is better than yesterday and that tomorrow will indeed be better than today.
Of course, Ambassador, South Africa is the largest GDP in Africa and increasingly an important player within the G20 as well as the newly formed BRICS to include countries like China, India, and Brazil, of course, South Africa. What is the state of South Africa's economy and what makes it attractive to foreign investments?
I think South Africa's economic strength is that it is able to export more than gold, more than minerals, more than diamonds. That it is not dependent on a single product that it is able to export. It has developed a manufacturing capacity and an assembly capacity. And so, for example, today in the United States, when I tell people that every C-Class Mercedes-Benz that drives around the United States was manufactured in South Africa, they're very surprised because they don't think that we are capable of it. I think in much the same way, agricultural products come to the US market and many other markets. So the South African strength economically is not necessarily its growth rate, because there are other African countries that have a bigger growth rate, but it is the diversity of its economy. It is the manufacturing capacity. It is the knowledge-driven sectors of the economy. It is the service sectors of the economy that make it strong. And I think we are fortunate that we don't have to rely on a single product like gold or oil to keep our economy afloat.
Excellent, Ambassador. Speaking about economy, speaking about investment, some people have expressed concern about Chinese role in Africa. How do you see it?
I think that the Chinese role in Africa is like a country that sees a vacuum and fills it. For as long as you don't have a situation in which countries of the West are willing to take the risk and invest in Africa, invest in its people, trade with Africa and trade with its people, you are going to have countries like China filling that gap. And so China has played an enormously important role of bringing capital to Africa, bringing infrastructure to Africa, making sure that its minerals are taken out of the ground. I think what worries us about it is that if it is too extractive, we need to have more trading partners than just the Chinese one. And so our challenge in Africa is not to chase the Chinese away. Our challenge in Africa is to bring the Americans in, to bring the Europeans in, and to bring the other countries in as well.
Speaking about foreign investors, speaking about cooperation, bringing everybody, let's talk a little bit about the relationship between your country and the United States, where you are obviously based, and the United States government, of course, considers South Africa to be one of its strategic partners on the continent. And in 2010, obviously, both countries, signed some sort of strategic dialogue. Can you talk about that?
I think that the strategic dialogue that has been formalized between South Africa and the United States shows the strength of that relationship. The United States understands that South Africa is not its enemy, but it's also not its client. We have critical relationships in which we agree on many, many things, especially on the principles of democracy, of good governance, of human rights, and the rule of law. But we have often different ways in which we reach those objectives. We would not, for example, use militarism or unilateralism as a way to force our will on the world. That's an area in which we would be in constant debate with the United States.
Of course, you're probably referring to the situation in Zimbabwe and also in Iran, where there's a huge difference between both governments. How do you tackle that?
I think that we tackle that by remaining firm. I think that we can contrast, for example, the way in which the United States tries to solve problems in Afghanistan and Iraq and so forth, and how many lives it costs, how much money it costs, how the United States has overextended its budget and all of those kind of things. Whereas in Zimbabwe, for half the time, we are getting more of the results in a peaceful way, in a less expensive way, and in a way that ultimately will not destroy the country before it can be built up again.
Of course, the U.S. has also articulated concern about your voting record at the United Nations, which is often linked to Chinese one. Do you see South Africa and China forming a bloc to advance a progressive agenda?
I think South Africa has shown in the recent past that it is not aligned to any one bloc. For example, on the vote for Resolution 1973 on Libya, we voted against the wishes of the Chinese, the Indians, and the Russians, and voted with the United States. On the other side, we voted also with the Chinese and the Russians voting against. We voted for the resolution on Syria. And so I think that the idea that we are inconsistent is a wrong one. And the idea that we're following one country is a wrong one.
Let's talk about the economic aspect of your cooperation with the United States, and AGOA fit a great deal into that. How important is that legislation for South Africa in particular and for Africa in general? And do you see any improvement into this law?
I think that AGOA has been absolutely critical for Africa. I think that we're especially anxious because in 2 years' time AGOA will terminate, and we want it to be renewed as soon as possible so that we can continue to have access to the United States market. South Africa is particularly pleased with AGOA because we are able to put 2,000 products onto the US market, including Mercedes-Benz's, including oranges, including minerals, and a range of other products that we can put onto the US market. So for us to lose that access would be difficult. But I suspect also that for the US to lose AGOA is going to be difficult because it is only because Africa now has more money because of AGOA that we can buy more goods from the United States. That is why John Deere has opened up a factory in Africa. That is why Ford has opened up a factory in Africa. That's why Walmart wants to come into Africa to sell goods to this middle class that is growing because AGOA is putting money in the pockets. And that is why IBM is coming in and selling computers to these entrepreneurs that no longer count their money under the mattress. They calculate things. And so I want to say that AGOA has not been a one-way street. It has been mutually beneficial, and the United States will admit that in a time of recession, their factories have been kept open because of contracts also from Africa.
Excellent. Ambassador, as the top economic powerhouse in Africa, how does South Africa use its influence in the world stage to bring about peace, stability and prosperity across the continent?
I think South Africa brings that about through what we call the diplomacy of Ubuntu. It is the diplomacy that says that we are humans through other humans. You've got to recognize the humanity of the one that you are negotiating with. And that is what South Africa brings to the table. We can go in and fight with anybody, but at the end of the day, fighting with everybody does not bring peace, does not bring prosperity, and does not bring development. And if you want lasting, sustainable solutions, you've got to follow the example of Nelson Mandela. And that is, you've got to reconcile differences, you've got to unite the warring parties, and you've got to commit them to a program of democracy, human rights, and development, and hold them to it. That's the only way. You can't destroy a country in order to build it up. And that's the lesson of South Africa.
Mr. Ambassador, on a lighter note, can you talk a little bit about this evening?
This evening is one of those really wonderful events in the calendar of South Africa. This is an evening when we celebrate Freedom Day. But you know, South Africa has something that every other country in the world would like to have with the United States: an umbilical cord with its citizens. The people that we will have here tonight are those who marched for us, went to jail for us, boycotted our fruits, and refused to break the academic boycotts. The students forced the universities to divest from South Africa. And so we are an embassy with friends in the United States amongst the ordinary citizens. And it's those people that we will be honoring tonight. Those are the people that will be getting the Nelson Mandela statuette as a token of our appreciation for them. And then the evening is going to be a wonderful one. We've got a truly South African band playing the greatest South African jazz. We're having South African food, South African drinks, and I really think tonight is going to have a serious touch, but a wonderful light touch to end with.
With that, I thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. I've been speaking to His Excellency Ebrahim Rasool, South Africa's envoy to Washington. From me, Ben Bangoura, and the rest of the team, goodbye.